Back problems is something that a lot of throwers have, and I want to share with you guys a couple tips that I do to get myself going before practice on days that I have a tight back like today. The first thing I urge you to do is go see a chiropractor, a physical therapist, or someone that can actually tell you what's going wrong with you. I know a lot of times with lower back pain, there's typically a lot of hip tightness, and that pulls your hips out of alignment, and that messes up your back. So something as simple as going to see a physical therapist that can tell you that can show you exercises to stretch them out and actually do something to get your back better. But until then, there's a couple things that you can do. I like to do a lot of core activation, and that helps tighten everything up in the front, and that helps typically relieve a lot of tension off of my back. So I'm gonna show you guys a couple of my favorite exercises. The first exercise that I like to start with is planks. These do a great job of getting my core activated, and it's very low impact, so on days that I'm sore, I can start with this. It doesn't hurt, and it begins the core activation that I'm gonna need to start to throw. The second exercise I like to do is these presses with the rubber band. The rubber band is pulling against me rotationally, and this is another low impact exercise that I can start by doing, and it warms up my core rotationally, which I'm gonna need once I start throwing. The next exercise that I really like for core activation is just one step further on the rubber band presses, and this is a Russian twist. It's the same thing, working my core rotationally, and activating all the muscles in the core is key to relieving the tension off of my back, and that's gonna allow me to get out and throw. So you can repeat these exercises as many times as you want until you're warm, and if after doing them you're not relieving any tension off of your back, then definitely either take it easy throwing or maybe don't throw at all if it's that bad. Anyway, let's get into some throwing. Alright, so with the back a little bit tight today, I really want to make sure that I focus on technique and not worrying too much about distance. So the first thing I want to do is start with some South Africans and just really feel the direction of the ball. Keep it on orbit. Alright, I wanted to take a minute to break down what I'm talking about when I say I'm trying to keep the ball in its orbit. So the best way that I can think to explain it is that there's only one orbit, but in that orbit there's multiple different planes that you need the implement to be going on. So the first plane of the orbit that I want to try to conceptualize is from the side. Now I'll use a red line to show my center of mass throughout the throw, and the orange line will represent the orbit that I'm trying to keep the ball on. So as I get the ball to the middle, it establishes the orbit, and then I want to try to keep it on that orbit, follow it around the whole throw, and push it straight out, all while tracking along with my center of mass. So the second plane that I'm trying to think about the ball being on orbit is easiest to see if you look from the back. So the thing to note about this one is that my center of mass isn't moving nearly as much as it is from the side angle. It's just moving a little bit as I transfer across the ring and set up my block. But the key for this one is that I don't want to do any significant pulling off of this orange line and the orbit that I'm trying to keep it on. And it's not way too much of a problem until you get to the finish. And oftentimes I have a bad habit of pulling in my right arm, and that pulls my shoulders off balance and really pulls me off the orbit, taking power and speed away from my throw. So the third and final angle that I want to show you guys is from above. And this has been the most important thing for me recently in getting a lot of my big throws. And what I'm trying to feel with this orbit, I want to try to explain, is a bit more difficult than some of the other ones. So as I'm coming out of the back and turning around the corner, there's a moment where I start to travel and get the ball to come straight. And that's when I talk about feeling the direction. Then as I get to the middle, it's a loop around the middle axis until I get to the point again that I can push the ball straight. So it's a really important orbit, and the timing of this has got some of my biggest throws, and it's when I continue to keep it rotational in the middle and then keep it on that orbit so I can push it nice and straight on the finish. So I'm gonna move on to full throws, and I wanna think long and patient over my right side out of the back, and that'll set up the whole throw so that I can maintain the ball on all three of those different orbit axes and get the most efficient possible throw. Another key thing for me is to be as far over to my right side as possible. Because I'm so tall, I need to utilize the ring as much as possible, and by reaching long over my right side, it allows me to be outside of the ring. That saves me more space as I drive across the circle. So watching back those slow-mos, I'm seeing that on my finish, I'm getting here, just keep turning off of it. Instead of getting a good power position, good stretch, and snapping the ball in the throwing direction, keeping everything facing that way. Find the tempo, don't worry about throwing far right away.
That's better. Oh!
Oh.
Shit. Ah!
Back's getting a little bit tight. Shot put, it was feeling fine today, which usually my back's worse for shot put when it's hurting. But today the opposite, so disc is just bugging me a bit. Last one, best one. All right, guys, that was it for me today. Back's just getting tight, and there's not much I can do in discus today when it's getting tight. So I'm gonna rest up, get ready for tomorrow, and hopefully come back and crush another practice and do some good things technically. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and if you really enjoyed it, subscribe for more. See you guys in the next one.